You're listening to the Southampton Delivery Podcast, a podcast dedicated to the Southampton Football Club and all of the SFC fans.
You just got to go out and express yourself.
Fonte with a scooping header.
You just got to get the job done. I'm here to get the job done.
Отдача, Остин! Все-таки забил!
It's infield to Mane, 25 yards out. Lovely ball for Pella. Onside, 1-0. Buffon shot! Oh my word!
Unbelievable. He ran around the pitch like Bambi on ice. It was very, very embarrassing to watch.
And now, your host, Matt Markstone. Hello and welcome to another episode of the Southampton Delivery Podcast, a podcast dedicated to the Southampton Football Club and all of the SFC fans. My name is Matt Markstone. I'm the host of the show. No matter where you are, no matter how you may be listening, thank you for making the show part of your day. I hope that you enjoy it. And I'll be honest that when JJ Hughes and I, editor of St. Mary's Musings, originally set this recording or this episode up, we realized we would be talking after the Liverpool match. We realized that we may not have a whole lot of positives to talk about. And whether that was just a self-fulfilling prophecy or whatever, it's going to come off that way. Did any of us really expect a result away at Liverpool? Probably not realistically. Did we expect to play better than that, put in a better performance? Absolutely. Was I frustrated afterwards? Yeah. We talk about that with JJ a ton. We'll talk about MMA. We'll talk about some other stuff. But we talked for about 2.5 hours. Not all of it was recorded. What was recorded, you get about a little over an hour of it. So we'll try to keep this brief. But one thing that we didn't talk about was the handing down. We talked about it actually just not while we were recording, was the handing down of the suspension for 3 years for the person who abused Ryan Brereton. I had a much longer kind of intro where I went into that in detail, but I think it's enough to say that's unacceptable. I don't think very many of the listeners of this show appreciate that, appreciate or stand for the kind of person who would do that. But make sure to check out Kick It Out and the apps they have to make reporting that type of stuff easier so that more people who do that can be removed, because I, for one, would like to show that is not something that is acceptable. And it's a tough thing to do. It's I understand kind of wanting to get on the player sometimes about certain things, but I guess there's a right way to do it. And you can do it. You can criticize play, you can criticize effort, you can criticize them without bringing in their race or sexism or anything else like that. So kudos to whoever turned that person in. And I hope that person learns his lesson. And, part of me wants to say that if you are upset that person was banned, that I don't want you to listen to this and you can just unsubscribe. But really what I want you to do is contact me, send me a DM, send me an email. Let's have a conversation, because I think that is the way things will change. Okay. The other thing we have to take care of before we get to my conversation with JJ Hughes is last week we had an author. We had Richard Walters on the show. He has a new book called Being a Saint. And we felt some of that pain this week. But we gave away a copy of the book. All you had to do was retweet the tweet that was pinned on my page and give Richard a follow on Twitter. And a number of people did that. And the winner of that book is Richard Brereton. So Richard, send me a DM with your address. We will get the book shipped out to you. I have been constantly checking my mailbox waiting for my copy. It's not here yet, but I am looking forward to it. So Richard, send me a DM. We'll get it out to you. And that pretty much is it. So I hope you enjoyed this episode. We'll be back after this is over to wrap it up. But here we go. Thanks for listening. We'd like to welcome back to the Southampton Delivery Podcast, JJ Hughes. You can find him on Twitter at JJ_Hughes. He is, the owner or the administrator or the admin over St. Mary's Musings. You can find them online at St. Mary's Musings on Twitter. Welcome back. I mean, we've been chatting now we've had a really good last hour, I think. Unfortunately,
it's been 90 minutes.
Has it? I apologize for that to everybody involved in your life and mine. But this is, it has been an hour and a half. Oh my goodness. But yeah, none of that was about Southampton, which is even better. So, Yeah, but we're here. Obviously, this is the day after the 3-0 defeat to Liverpool. But I guess just kind of briefly before we have to talk about that, let's talk a bit more about you and the site, because it always seems to be the best way to get things kind of going. But what's new going on with you? I know you if anybody has listened to this before, they know that you will have, or they will have known that you write about MMA and everything else. But what else is going on in that realm of the world?
First of all, great to be back. I really enjoyed being on last time. I believe last time I was on was after we'd lost against Burnley, so I don't want it to become a recurring theme that I only appear after a loss, but I guess against Liverpool that was a bit of a given when we organised this before. So yeah, I'm still writing about MMA. An interesting time with MMA. Conor McGregor's coming back. He just had quite a controversial press conference with his near future opponent Khabib Nurmagomedov. Went from promoting his new whiskey, which if anyone follows Conor McGregor online, you probably would have heard about that by now. He went from whiskey promoting to accusing Khabib Nurmagomedov, who's from Dagestan, accusing him of cozying up to Chechen dictators, taking money from corrupt Russian billionaires, to disrespecting Vladimir Putin. All spliced in with a sort of near hour-long whiskey commercial. It was interesting, and there was no fans present at the press conference either, which made it all a bit more awkward.
Yeah, if there's one thing that Conor McGregor is, he's good at promoting. Like the number of people that will tune in to watch him talk about that is insane. And I think if any of us would have gone and done the kind of tirade that he went on when he was throwing chairs and everything else, like, one, all of those guys would have beat the crap out of us, but two, we'd never be heard from again. And he somehow has made that, well, I'm back, and here comes the UFC and everybody else to kind of, I don't know, be right alongside him. I guess it's crazy. Yeah,
well, he probably recognizes this as well, but Conor McGregor is very much in the position where the UFC needs him. They don't really have any other superstars. They did have Ronda Rousey until she got found out and then quickly left for WWE. So yeah, McGregor's really the major draw. You have a few other fighters, John Jones, who recently, he's serving a drug suspension, so obviously he's not the best fighter to promote. Basically McGregor's just found himself in a spot which I think is fully earned by him, but he kind of calls the shots as much as a fighter can in an organisation like the UFC. So they fight on October 6th. With me, I'm now the freelance digital editor for Fighters Only magazine. So I've been covering events for UFC events. I'll be going to KSW, which is a Polish promotion. They've got a show at Wembley Arena coming up in October as well.
Okay.
So yeah, very busy with that, and also working for St. Mary's Musings as well, trying to keep up with all the other websites who have a lot more time on their hands than I do.
Yeah. Well, can I ask you a little bit about the MMA stuff? Because I cannot watch people fight. It like turns my stomach. But I have friends who have done MMA, and Chuck Liddell, UFC kind of legend from
yes,
early-ish, lives 20 minutes from me. We're not friends, but we see him. If you go out in town, you can run into him from time to time. It's kind of fun.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And the pit, which is one of the gym that he trained at, that is you can drive by it, you can see it, you can take classes from it. And they
Don Hackelman.
Yeah. I mean, the dude is a legend. And if you I have a couple of friends who have done the training and gotten to the point where you get to go to his house on a Sunday morning and train, and that's like the ultimate kind of call, is if you get to go to his house and do all the stuff that Chuck did before he made it big. So it's interesting, but Yeah. I mean, do you find it easier to write about the MMA if you're at home versus where you have the replays and you have all that stuff, or is it more difficult to kind of go there and watch the action live and try to encapsulate that or capture that, I guess?
It's a tough one. They both have their sort of upsides and downsides, I guess. What I will say, now that you mentioned Chuck Liddell, I don't know if you've heard, he's due to fight Tito Ortiz for the third time. I think he's nearing 50 now, if he's not already turned 50. Sorry.
Oh,
and I mean, he's been retired for maybe up to 8 years.
Yeah.
And he's I respect that people need to earn money. But this is being promoted by Golden Boy Promotions with Oscar De La Hoya. So Tito Ortiz hasn't retired. He's been continually training, continually fighting. And now he's facing Chuck Liddell, who's been out of the game for a while and didn't look very good upon his retirement. I kind of feel a little uneasy about that. So watching fights at home versus live. At home's good, as you say, that there are, you do get replays, you do get commentary. If you're sat cage side, sometimes you can miss certain things. If there's anything from an accidental eye poke, you don't know whether the fighter was actually poked in the eye, so that's why the action stopped. From an accidental groin kick, you don't know if it actually landed where it shouldn't have. There's loads of stuff that are picked up by commentary, and they've obviously got a production team in their ear at all times, and they get replays and things like that. And in the arena, you do get the live broadcast on screens as well. Okay. So you do get replays, but sometimes it's without context, you don't really know what you're looking at. What I will say, reporting ringside or cage side, one of the benefits is there's no distractions whatsoever. So with me, I have a mate who's also into MMA. I've kind of got him into it, and for the big fights, he'll want to come around mine and watch it with me. But I'm working, and obviously he's having fun watching it.
Right.
So there's no distractions if you're actually cage side. And when I have been cage side as well, the sort of fellow journalists there's quite a good camaraderie where everyone tries to help each other. So, if there's if you don't know the time of the finish of a fight or the scorecards, everyone's generally quite helpful to help you out with that.
Yeah, that's awesome. Another thing I would think is sitting there at the angle you're at. If you are at a bad angle for something, you may not get to see the series of moves that went into it just because your angle's simply blocked by the referee or somebody else. And so that's something that would jump into my mind, but yeah.
Yeah, no, that's very true. And I should have mentioned that. So you can even have, so if you ever watch a UFC fight, you'll notice you'll have, the cameramen are all standing up on stools. So the cameras are pointed over the cage fence. Mm-hmm. So usually they're stationary, but if there's some action that's, fast moving or on the ground, the cameraman will then get down and pretty much block the entire view of press row. And also there's the fact that if, for instance, if a fighter gets taken down on the other side of the cage to press row, in reality, all you can really see is two guys or girls just lying on top of each other. You don't really know what's like the intricacies of what's actually happening.
Right, because the cage is raised a bit, right?
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, so that would totally cut your angle off. Man, that I guess the same thing goes for football, sometimes you're in some of these places, and if you're in some of these older places, sometimes you have an obstructed view. I've heard other people talk about it. So
tell me about it.
Yeah. I don't tend to get that at home. You get distractions, children, loved ones, dogs, whatever. But, yesterday during the Liverpool match, I was able to take care of 2 loads of laundry. So, that was, the most exciting thing that happened to me during the game. So I guess
it was that good a game. So at least you made use of your time.
Yeah. Yeah. As you can tell from the notes, I stopped caring, or not stopped caring, but I stopped writing because I was just like, I didn't know what to put down anymore. And I did mention last week that I had kind of not talked about the Brighton game because I was hoping to be able to talk about a win with you. And you mentioned that you've only been on after losses. That goes for all but 3 people over the past year.
Yes,
so don't feel bad. Are we okay talking about the Brighton game just briefly? We don't have to go into detail, but just kind of big picture. Like, that's 13 points dropped from winning positions. That's a 2-goal lead that we let slip at home again against a team that we should beat, but I don't know kind of what you made of that result or for me, just looking ahead, we had Liverpool, we have Wolves, we have Chelsea. Like, these are not great matches for us to go in and try to take points from before we head into another international break where, we could theoretically be on 5 points by that point.
Yeah. And it honestly wouldn't surprise me if we were still. Brighton, Brighton at home. Our home form's been terrible for a long time now. Brighton at home, 2-0 up. Realistically, if Southampton want to have a season where, I don't think any Southampton fans at this stage are expecting a whole lot. But Brighton are going to be one of the teams that are around the bottom of the league, which obviously is an area we want to avoid. To let in 2 goals, both were sloppy for different reasons, with Shane Duffy's free header, the penalty, which Glenn Murray put away, came from a really stupid foul in the last minute. There's been a lot made of Southampton's mentality issues, and I think as a squad, they've been guilty of not necessarily being the most mentally strong or resilient like they were in the past. But I also feel, I've long been banging on about how I don't think the Southampton squad is anywhere near the same sort of calibre it was years gone by. And I feel like that kind of feeds into the mentality issues as well. If, for instance, Ryan Bertrand played since when Koeman first took over, and the first 3 seasons he had at Southampton, he enjoyed 3 top 8 finishes. Now, since then, results have slid, league positions have got worse, and he might not have the confidence in his teammates that he would have had with the previous squads he was part of. I feel like that kind of it all seems quite like a negative atmosphere across the club, and I feel like if Southampton oppose of any pressure from the opposition, there aren't many in the stadium that has a whole load of confidence that Southampton can stand firm, and I think that includes the squad. I don't think they're confident in their ability to withstand heavy pressure and keep hold of a lead. That's why it was so amazing to see Saints beat Crystal Palace, because at 1-0 Southampton were under loads of pressure. Could have only left Selhurst Park with just a point, but went down the other end and got a second goal. I can't remember the last time that happened where we sort of rounded off a win in that kind of fashion. The Brighton game was symbolic for so many reasons, and I think that's the kind of game. It's not only the 2 points we lost, but also the knock in our confidence after a 2-game winning run. I think that could have been quite damaging to our team.
Yeah, and just I guess going back to Crystal Palace, and people try to. You can really see it like kind of one of 2 ways. Either we just held on and we really should have been beaten if they would have had Zaha, or if Benteke would have been on form or whatever, versus, we kind of did what we had to do. And I think it's kind of a combination of both. Like, there is an element of luck that goes along with it. But it was nice to see us, with enough confidence for, I think it was Hoot to play that ball to Target, and Target to just play a really nice ball for Højbjerg to be able to do it. And then Højbjerg did enough to, score the goal. And I think that left us with a bunch of confidence. I think it was an emphatic kind of ending to the game, because it felt a little bit like we didn't just kind of squeak by or hang on. Like we really did beat them, which was I think deserved for large portions of that game. Then you have the international break. Some guys go away and don't play. Some guys don't go away at all. It seems like Brereton was pretty, he's got to be upset with not being selected. But I don't really know what to say. And then we come back and we do what we did against Brighton. It is as frustrating as possible, because I think that any confidence that was there, I think it probably has to be gone a little bit, just because we've done this so many times now that you can't, even as positive as I try to be, you can't always do it. It at some point, and for me, it was yesterday, and in a game where I think if we win at Brighton and then we go lose the exact same way against Liverpool, I don't think I feel the same way I do right now, because I don't know. I don't want to say you expect to lose against Liverpool, but you don't. They're undefeated. They have more wins than we have points, and I think there's a reason for that.
Yeah, definitely. And even so, to lose late to a big team is tough. I remember even Man City away last season, we were only going to nick a point, but Raheem Sterling scored, 7 minutes into injury time, whatever it was, and it was absolutely gutting. So to lose a game in that particular fashion is horrible. And the thing is, we didn't actually lose against Brighton, but you'll find everyone talks about the Brighton game as if we did lose, because it was such a wasted opportunity. We got a point, but we lost 2 points. And just the manner of how it all went down was horrible. Whereas Liverpool, I think, especially given after what happened Monday and Liverpool's form in the league so far, and it's a bit of a free hit. If you can get something at Anfield, great. But, is it realistic? Probably not. My understanding, I wasn't at Anfield yesterday, but my understanding was we, as soon as we conceded the first goal, and, we didn't really offer anything. We had one shot on target all game. And, I think we were set up in a way to go to Anfield to try and frustrate Liverpool and maybe just nick a point and settle for that. But then if you concede an early goal, those plans are, useless now, because we're not going to score. And all 3 goals were just like calamitous in each way. The own goal to begin with, and then all the goals following were just scrappy. And Liverpool do look a lot more solid and can win games that they don't necessarily dominate now, which, before, if they didn't totally dictate the game, they could slip up. Whereas yesterday, I think they just bossed the game and didn't really have to exert any energy. And Saints offered barely anything.
Yeah. I guess looking at yesterday, just looking at the kind of the team news and the lineup that we put out. Of course, Ings is out due to not being able to play because he's on loan from Liverpool. I guess that's the one kind of big consequence, at least on the surface, of him not being ours this year. Is he going to win us that game yesterday? Like, I don't think so. But I'm sure there are other financial reasons or whatever that are behind the scenes that we don't understand or don't know, that'll may or may not become apparent later. But, Gabbiadini comes up with an injury. El Nussi comes up with an injury. That leaves us Charlie Austin and Shane Long. And then you think, well, one, we know that Austin struggles to play a full 90 minutes. So you don't expect him to play a 4-4-2, unless maybe you sacrifice one of the 2 strikers and play Armstrong maybe or something like that behind him, maybe something like that. But and again, Long doesn't necessarily play a full 90 minutes very often either. Just I think because the type of game that he plays, where he runs kind of as much as he does and whatever. But I don't know. Like looking at that lineup, the one kind of surprise was to see Target kind of essentially playing left wing. But I wasn't really surprised with any of the rest of it. It seemed like there that's the way it was going to go, and you hope you're going to hit them on the break, so you have Redmond and Long up there to run, and that all seems to make sense to me. But I don't know how you saw it or how you felt about it.
Well, as you mentioned, we were kind of, pardon the pun, hamstrung with our selection options, just because of Gabbiadini getting injured, Ings not being available, Elyounoussi out as well. Really, I mean, again, like realistically, away at Liverpool, especially the way they're playing, and we did this before, even when we were outperforming Liverpool in the league for that one season, which everyone seems to hang on to. We'd go to Liverpool to set up to play on the counter because, managers need to be pragmatic to a certain degree. I think maybe Mark Hughes can lean towards pragmatism a little too far at times. But yeah, I saw the lineup yesterday, and I mean, I got it. I understood why he picked the team he did. I liked seeing Target, start. I don't know how effective he really was out on the wing, but yeah, I mean, the way I think, especially after Monday as well. I mean, we'd be silly not to try and set up to try and frustrate Liverpool, and then maybe we can nick something out of the game. Obviously, it didn't work out for us. It's just one of them games. It'd be wrong to dwell on it too much. I think Brighton is the game which probably deserves a little more attention, just for being a bit more concerning. Whereas Liverpool, again, who expects us to get anything from Liverpool realistically? And technically, we drew the second half, so positive. That is not serious, by the way.
No, I guess one of the things that you think about is, yeah, you kind of do. Your expectations maybe are lowered going away to Anfield, but I just think it was kind of the game plan fell apart so early on through the own goal, and then I guess it's the way the other two goals are conceded. It's the fact that we somehow don't mark their center back in the box. We give him a free header. It looks like Vestergaard is kind of it doesn't have a man, and he's just supposed to head the ball away. He doesn't get there, and I don't. Maybe it's a mistake and it happens every once in a while, but it seems to be something that we struggle with over and over again. Leaving, you think back to last year, Glenn Murray being open. You think about all of these center forwards that get posted up on Cedric at the back post or whatever, and somehow now we managed to leave another center back kind of unattended. And then for the third goal, it's just once again we don't react to a ball that is loose, and whether it's McCarthy or Forster making a save, and Forster a lot of times was guilty of pushing it back into a dangerous area, but we weren't there to clear it. This time it kind of comes off the underside of the bar, and we're not there. Salah gets in and scores, and it's just those types of mistakes, those types of things seem to be recurring, and I don't know, like maybe if those don't happen, if we get and clear that ball, if we mark him and just head the ball away, like if the guy hits a screamer from 35 yards out, off of the clearing header, so be it. That's what it is. That's a once in a while, kind of once in 100 type shot. And I don't think I'm nearly as upset as I am because of the manner that we conceded the goals and the manner that we kind of played the second half, where we didn't really do anything.
Yeah. And that's an interesting point, because since Pochettino was in charge at Southampton, our team, yes, we went through spells and seasons when we played nice football, but that was always built on the back of having really solid defence. Under Pochettino, we defended all over the park, playing sort of a pressing style of football you see now at Spurs, and a more extreme version of that at Liverpool. Koeman, it didn't really press a whole lot, but we were defensively solid and played a more direct style of attacking football. Puel, yes, we weren't the most entertaining, but again, defensively solid. And even when Van Dijk got injured for the second half of Puel's season, with Jack Stevens coming in, we still looked pretty solid. And then Puel left, Pellegrino, a defensively minded manager. Defence seemed to totally disintegrate with him in charge. Obviously, from what we hear, there was a lot of things going on behind the scenes with Van Dijk. We sold him in January. I think you can make an argument that that Wesley Hoot hasn't exactly worked out as a Southampton centre-back. I think I've seen a few people doubt the abilities of Vestergaard already, although I'd like to reserve judgment on that. I just think Bertrand is a solid left-back. Cedric can be found wanting at times. Vestergaard, I'm still, yet to decide on what I feel about him. Hoot's very inconsistent. And then I also think in midfield, in centre midfield anyway, we're pretty weak. Unless, I think the combination of Højbjerg and Lemina is a solid pairing in the middle. But then I think that's still a midfield that is capable of being overrun, depending on the opposition. Yesterday, Liverpool's midfield's just way too strong for ours. Their attacks, you're always going to have our defence on the back foot, even if we're set up to play deep. But I think there's been a lot of evidence to say that our defence looks considerably more timid. We're not exactly an aggressive side either, so we're not exactly striking fear into our opponents at the minute. I think that whole sort of defensive foundation we've long had has disappeared now, and that is coupled with the fact that we struggle to score. That's not a good combination for any team.
No. And like you said, though, going back even, you look at the defensive partnerships we've had at center back for the last number of years, since we've been back in the Premier League, and they're pretty strong, and then you get to the point where now it's like, no, we just don't look that way. We don't look strong. We don't look, I don't know. It doesn't fill you with a bunch of confidence. And as you kind of go forward, like you said, the Lemina Højbjerg partnership can get found out a little bit. Yesterday we put the third midfielder in there to try to help them out, and it just wasn't quite enough. We didn't have it. And I don't know, a full strength team where we set up and have this kind of resolute kind of game plan where we're going to press, we're going to apply pressure, we're going to work as a team. We're going to try to nick a goal, or we're going to try to get a draw. That, it almost came off last year against Man City, but it doesn't even look like our team this year can do that. That didn't look the team that was out there yesterday could have done that. That didn't look the same sort of commitment maybe was there. Which I mean, as a guy's watching from the United States, I didn't make the trip to Anfield obviously, but like it is disappointing to see, and it's pretty clear to see. And that, for me, frustrates me maybe more than just about anything. Yeah,
no, I think even if you do want to play a counter-attacking style, you still need one creative outlet as well to try and unlock, just to be the person to deliver that ball over the top for someone like Shane Long to chase. But in reality, yesterday all we had how many? We had 7 men behind the ball. And Target, Redmond and Long trying to create something. I mean, how many times have Target, Redmond and Long played together? Probably not a whole lot, especially not starting a game. And I think Target's main inclusion was to help, probably help defend the wings anyway. So, yeah, I mean, there's only... To win that kind of game, counter-attacking, just relying on someone like Shane Long, who, he's got 2 goals, and I think I saw 2 goals in the last 52 games or something stupid like that. Mm-hmm. He's, you're going to need an element of luck. The quality's not necessarily going to be there. We conceded an early goal, and then any plans we did have of, stealing some points from Anfield, it just totally went by the wayside. So as soon as we can see that first goal, and then we have to open up and try and play football to get something from the game, which I don't think we even did. Because by the time it's half time, we were 3-0 down and, dead and buried.
Yeah, parts of that after the opening goal, like there were a couple instances where we pressed and, forced the ball out for a goal kick or forced it out for a throw kind of deep in their territory and things like that. And that was good to see. But
yeah,
that was the odd here and there. It happened. It wasn't the full, I don't know, it wasn't consistent for the entire game.
But you know what the issue was? They didn't have the ball in that area for long enough for us to do it on multiple occasions.
Right.
It happened a few times, but that's only effective if, as you said, we forced a goal kick, we forced throw-ins. If we had more opportunities to do that, then we may have forced an error which led to a shot on goal or maybe a goal in itself. Just to have sort of 3-4 examples of us doing that suggests that Liverpool didn't really have the ball in those sort of dangerous areas for us to try and exploit much to begin with.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, most of the possession was going to be, unfortunately, in the final in our third, I guess, and them looking to, us making, I don't want to say last ditch tackles, but us poking the ball away at the last second or something like that, and then kind of resetting and doing it again. And I think that's a fair summary of the game. I think because it seems like all my notes here just have Liverpool making lots and lots of nice little intricate passes and us poking it away, and then us doing it again. And one highlight I should point out is Romeo seemed to just at some point go like, I'm going to tackle everyone. He took Cedric out. He took out, I want to say it was Shaqiri maybe. And all of it I enjoyed because you knew the yellow card was coming, and I would have liked to have seen him booked for tackling his own player. I think that would have been great. I don't know if that's allowed, but
I'm not sure either, actually.
I think you can get sent off for fighting your own player, right? But I don't know if
that's definitely a fact.
Slide tackling your own player, because he went through like 2 or 3 people on one tackle that I was like, oh, that's it made me smile. I had to refold that blanket that I was working on then because I was I cheered maybe. But
at least Romeo did provide some entertainment. But what you're saying there, Liverpool, loads of nice attacking play. Defend made a few last-ditch attempts to poke the ball away, block shots, last-ditch tackles. The second half to me just looked like a damage limitation exercise, which maybe is what was appropriate if we're not going to get any result from the game. We're now -3 goal difference at the minute, which is as a result of that 3-0 loss. So, we would have slipped down another position if we let in another 2. So maybe it was the wise decision after a bit of a shocking first half.
I don't know. I mean, the second half was pretty dire, There was pretty, or dour, I guess.
Both will do. You can even see with Liverpool, they weren't exactly exerting themselves a whole load. I think they knew to have the 3 points wrapped up. With games starting to pile up as well, now they're in the Champions League season's now started and everything else. I mean, you can't really blame them for taking their foot off the gas in the second half, and we were more than happy to let them, do their thing and not threaten our goal with as much sort of conviction as in the first half. I think even the fact that Shaqiri started for Liverpool yesterday was an indication that I think Liverpool knew we were there for the taking. Unfortunately for them, they got three goals fairly quickly, and took their foot off the gas second half because they knew they could.
Yeah, it's almost like they just gave Shaqiri, they just said, do whatever you want, but you have zero defensive responsibility because we won't be playing very much, and that'll be it. And I'm not sure if it worked. It looked like a couple times where there was one too many people around the area to wanting the ball and wanting the pass, where I'm sure if they work on that a little bit more, they'll figure that out. But I guess, in some ways, the good news is we didn't just get completely sliced open a ton of times, at least that led to a goal. But I would have much preferred that because that's the talent that Liverpool have, that they're going to do that to teams. They did it to PSG. They did it to teams last year in the Champions League. Like they're going to do that, and that's I think at some point I can appreciate that as good football. Whereas what we saw yesterday maybe wasn't so much great. But
yeah, I'm not sure what I'd rather, to be honest, because either way it's pretty humiliating seeing your defence torn to shreds through some nice attacking play, and it's also pretty humiliating seeing your team just, defend. It was just joke defending yesterday. Their goals none of them were particularly nice to look at. You can point fingers at multiple errors made in the sequences leading up to them goals. Mm-hmm. Defenders switching off, perhaps the midfield not helping out enough, poor marking. So yeah, I mean, even if they scored nice goals, it wouldn't be nice to witness, but at least I guess you could absolve defenders of, some responsibility if, they had an undefendable pass they had to face. Whereas yesterday it was, I'd say all three situations were more than avoidable where they scored. But unfortunately, Liverpool were at the races and Saints most certainly weren't.
Yeah, yeah. And yesterday during the game, I think it's harder to kind of just take a step back and look at it, I guess, in context where, we theoretically got the result we would have expected. It just didn't happen in the manner that we would have wanted it to, maybe. But I don't know, like yesterday you look at some of the things that were on Twitter, and I was even pretty dejected by the end of it, but some of the people calling out players and somebody sent me, I retweeted a poll in the middle of the show, or in the middle of the game. And had I thought about it a bit more, I was genuinely interested in the result, but had I thought about it a bit more, I probably would have waited till the end of the game to retweet it, because somebody responded to me with basically, why are you doing this right now? And it's like, look, like I don't want to say I made a mistake, but like at that point, did I really want to watch the game? Like, so like I'm looking for other things to do. But yeah, I mean, people are now, again, the questions are going to start coming in about Hughes, and we have some that people have asked us, and how many people trust that he was doing the right job? Did we give him credit this year, or do we allow him to stay around this year just because he kept us up last year? And I don't know if it's the appropriate time to start doing that, or if this is the third manager who struggled with this type of thing. Now, is it more than that? Is it the squad? Is it the whole setup of the organization, or is this what happens to teams like Southampton, like Swansea, who had a decent couple of years? You kind of build up to this is the model, and Saints were held up there, and I think everybody's going to jump on the Wolves bandwagon and the Watford bandwagon now. And can we just expect them to be back where we are in 2 or 3 years or 4 years? And is this just kind of normal? I guess I think I just said a lot of stuff, and I'm not sure any of it makes sense.
Well, I think there are some parallels to Swansea to a degree. I'd like to think those in charge at Southampton can look at Swansea and try to, avoid any of the issues which sort of led to them getting relegated last season. But yeah, I mean, as I said in our last podcast as well, and I was a defender to a certain extent of Claude Puel when he was in charge, because my feelings at the time were, yes, like, okay, we're not playing nice football, but he's, under the circumstances, he was doing the best of the hand that he was dealt. I feel like recruitment, the whole policy of, buying players for, Vestergaard was signed for 18 million this summer, which that is not a small amount of money, but in comparison to some other teams in the Premier League, you can maybe argue now that we aren't sort of spending the money we should, especially given that the fact we sold Van Dijk for 70 odd million in January. What I'll also say to that is, the whole that whole ethos of buying players from abroad with the expectations that they're going to live up to previous squads where we were successful in that sort of transfer market strategy, I'd say that's unrealistic. There's no guarantees of any player. and I just don't think the makeup of our squad is what we want or need at the minute. But there's a wider issue of, what is the Southampton style of football we're trying to achieve? Because Pochettino, well, under Nigel Adkins, we played nice football. I think Pochettino improved the way we played across the park. But then Koeman changed things, changed the ethos of not playing as many of our academy players like Pochettino and Adkins did before him.
Mm-hmm.
And then once Koeman left after 2 seasons, more players were leaving. Puel comes in, again adopts a different style, I think, to try and make the most of the players he's got at his disposal. He goes after a season. Pellegrino comes in. We didn't really lose many players last season until January, but it was clear to see that Pellegrino wasn't up to the job, and maybe the squad wasn't either. And then we've had another summer where we haven't lost many players, but we've brought in 4 players, or 4 or 5, and maybe apart from Ings, I don't think any of them have had a huge impact. I know we're only 6 games in, but I wouldn't say our style of football has changed, for the better. I wouldn't say there's a whole load of positive signs to suggest, we're going to be well clear of a relegation battle like last season. I'd like to think, we've dropped 13 points from winning positions since Hughes has been in charge. But that also means we have been, winning games and then collapsing. So maybe that's a sign that if we can address our sort of mental fragility in defending a lead, maybe there's, room for optimism to think maybe we'll, Saints will overcome that problem and start picking up some results with regularity. But all signs at the minute point to another, at the very most, a bit of a mediocre season. At the very least, another relegation battle. I don't think we're going to be, bottom of the league. I think Cardiff's got that position wrapped up, but you never know. So I'm hoping we've got a bit of a tough run of games coming up. It'd be nice if we can, nick a result from one of them. But on the evidence I've seen so far, there's nothing to suggest that we can and will do that.
I mean, kind of on that note a little bit, we have a question from a listener. We got quite a few questions actually, which was kind of nice. It was an active day on the social media channels. One of the questions comes from Chris_graphics on Instagram, and he says, are giving away leads just a symptom of poor confidence and resolvable, or are they deep-rooted problem in the structure of the team, such as poor organization, defense, etc.? And I don't know, like you seem like, you kind of mentioned there that we're on the edge. We're close. We are winning games. We are close to holding out on some of those. You think back to Everton, how much that hurt. You think back to the Chelsea game last year and how much that crushed me. That was the game where I officially kind of said, I think we're down and that's it.
Me too.
and then, you get games like Brighton where, I don't know, like last year was rough in that. I specifically remember the Arsenal game early on in the season where it was kind of the same thing. Almost a similar kind of run as that Sterling shot, just kind of that area. I think it was a cross though to Giroud, who then managed to do it again to us when he was playing for Chelsea. This is all coming back to me, and I don't really want to talk about it. But but like I don't know, like you think I think sometimes we're too quick to think that bringing in a player will solve all of the issues. We brought in a big guy, Vestergaard. He's going to head the ball away. Obviously, he misses a header yesterday, and they score from it, and then we're kind of back to square one. But I don't know, like, what do you think it takes to change this? Do you think that the players that we have are not good enough? Do you think that the way that they are being set up to defend isn't good enough, or what kind of jumps out to you?
Yeah, as I've said, I don't necessarily think our squad's as strong as years previous. But then I mean, it's pretty evident that there's a confidence issue with our squad, which I guess is natural after a season like they had last season. especially considering, a fair few of the players still in the squad would have experienced, good spells under Koeman where we were finishing 6th and 7th, and then under Prel we finished 8th. What I will say though, I think in terms of organisation, I think Hughes is guilty of what Pellegrino often did if we ever took a lead under Pellegrino, and seek to play deep to defend a lead, which I think is really counterintuitive considering how panicky we are in defence and under pressure. And I feel like once you set your team up to flat out defend the lead and maybe nick a goal on the break like we did against Palace the other week, which was in reality a bit of an anomaly because, how often does that happen with Saints? Yeah, given our clear confidence issues, maybe it's not a good idea to, invite so much pressure and almost ask for the other team to come out and attack us, which our team is not built for that these days.
Right. We have a couple of other questions. You want to answer some of these before?
Yeah, of course.
We run out of time here. Okay, here's one from the Limehouse podcast. He's at Limehouse Pod. And he said, I said after our first match and then again at full time against Brighton that we're now in a relegation fight. Is that the correct reading of the situation? And also, are we making more mistakes than last season? And are we in a worse position mentally? And is it set to get worse? And I think for me, I think that we are uber critical right now of everything that the team does.
Yeah.
And I think we have the right to be based on how last year went. So I'm not trying to blame anybody for it, but I think that we are so kind of ingrained to pick apart everything that the team does. As soon as something doesn't come off, it doesn't matter what the intention was or anything else. It's that this is somehow somebody's fault and somebody has to be blamed for it. And almost to the point where we take it too far. I think I read something this morning that Wesley Hoot has gotten rid of some of his social media posts and things like that. And if that's true, that goal is not his fault. Does he make mistakes? Sure. But that initial own goal that goes against him, first of all, we lost the ball on the edge of the area. Second of all, we didn't close down the cross. Third of all, Long is somehow standing as deep as any of our defenders, which is awkward when he's the only striker we have on the field. And the ball ricochets and hits him in the chest and it goes in. Like, I don't know. Like it upsets me that we can get kind of so upset at one person, because they made a mistake. And I don't know. I don't know if I could be completely misreading the situation or anything else, but like, I don't know. I mentally, sure, we're weak. There's got to be some confidence issues, and there's only so many times you can tell yourself like, yes, we can do better, or yes, we're going to do it this time, and then to have it not happen. And I don't know how to fix that. I mean, people go to counseling for a long time for confidence issues and stuff a lot, and I have people in my life who have no confidence, and I struggle with confidence, and it's just kind of one of those things. And I don't have an answer for how to get that back or how to make that better, if that makes sense.
Yeah, quite a lot to unpack there.
Sorry.
No, that's good. I totally agree with you in terms of I think Hoot's become a scapegoat, and I think you're totally right in saying that there was multiple phases in his own goal, prior to his own goal, which could have been prevented by one of his teammates. Just one of them own goals, like unavoidable own goals, when it came to him. But as you said, when they put the initial cross in, it wasn't exactly closed down as well as it should have been. There was multiple facets leading up to the own goal, loads of different events, which if we acted differently, the end result may have not been the same. I also think it's a massive shame that Hoot feels a need to close some of his social media accounts. At the same time, I don't exactly blame him either. Southampton fans aren't alone in doing this. It's a social media-led thing with football. Before social media, you'd have fans in the ground. Every team has one player that the crowd will moan about. I think that's totally inevitable. But now social media has given the voice to loads of people, and sometimes the messages they send to players aren't, let's say that they're not exactly, not always appropriate. I mean, away from Southampton, you look at the abuse Loris Karius got for his performance at the Champions League final. You had Liverpool fans sending him and his kids death threats. It's the world we live in at the minute. So if I was a footballer, I probably wouldn't even have set up any social media accounts to begin with. In terms of whether we are guilty of more individual errors this season than last, I think it's important to remember that we're only 6 games in this season, which is also why I think we need to sort of be sensible and reserve the judgment on whether we're going to be embroiled in a relegation battle immediately. Our team had plenty of defensive errors at the back last season. I don't know what the cause of that is, whether it is because of a sort of drop in quality in defenders and midfielders, players getting older, players feeling demotivated when results go against them, whether it's the change in manager. There's loads of different factors. This season we have a new centre-half pairing with Vestergaard and Hoot. Hoot didn't have the best season last season, and now he has a new defensive partner to work out with him now. And in addition to that, obviously Cedric on the right, he needs to work out how Vestergaard also plays. There's going to be times where Bertrand, as a left back, will also have to work out how Vestergaard plays in defence with him. The quality's definitely dropped. I mean, we went through, from when Koeman took over, we had Toby Alderweireld, who I believe is one of the best centre backs in the world. Can also play out wide in defence, and we also use him as a defensive midfielder at times. I think he's among the best in the world, and I have little doubts about that. Van Dijk has, since moving to Liverpool, has proven that he is the world-class player that we all thought he was when he was at Southampton. Mm-hmm. And a lot of our fans couldn't believe we had a player of his quality at Southampton. Those are the 2 centre-halves we had prior to Hoot, and Hoot was the replacement, I think, in advance for Van Dijk's inevitable departure. To compare Hoot to Van Dijk and our defence to a defence with Van Dijk or Alderweireld in it, again, I think it's unrealistic. We need to accept the fact our squad's not as good as it was, but I think we also should expect our board to address those issues properly and accordingly. There aren't a dearth in world-class centre-backs in the world right now, but we've already discovered, we already bought Van Dijk on the cheap. Why can't our recruitment's not been the best of late, to put it that way, and it definitely needs improving if we're going to, trying to strive for European qualification once again.
Yeah, I think I've mentioned before that I think other teams have caught up to us in terms of our recruitment. You have that slight advantage. You have to take advantage of it when you have it. I think we did. I think we don't get some of those players in to what most people would say is a mid to lower league or lower level Premier League club without having some sort of slight advantage that I think we did well to do to bring in. So now I think you are running into things. There's even more money in the game. There are other opportunities. It's clear here that if you come to Southampton, people are going to be skeptical of whether or not you're staying for long enough for the right reasons or whatever it is. And why would people do that? People are coming here to, these careers are short. They're coming here to make money, to play, to show people, to put themselves on the stage. And I think with, some of the players, I think Bertrand in that sense, in missing out on the World Cup squad, I think that actually hurts us a little bit simply because all of a sudden now we're not being looked at as much. We don't have we don't have an England international on the team. And that sucks. That hurts. Danny Ings close, and I won't discount Alex McCarthy, but we're on the fringes. We're not in there as being regulars and getting regular attention that way. And I think that could ultimately impact us negatively.
I think you're totally right. There's the whole talk of how money's made the league less competitive in terms of, the top 4, 5, 6 teams are on their own sort of island, and the rest of the league sort of now fighting for scraps. But what the money's done is made, the other 14 teams on more of a level par. So we're all now competing for the same players. Like, if a club is seen to be scouting a player from a different league, a different country, or whatever, that news gets round to these clubs, and everyone is looking at the same player. So yeah, I think you're right. Everyone's caught up to us. I think a lot of teams caught up to us in terms of both scouting and academy work as well. And yeah, it's going to be tougher for us to be smart. I think we outmaneuvered a lot of clubs sort of in the mid 2010s, whereas now I think a lot of other clubs similar size to us have now sort of caught on to what we were doing and are doing the same now. So perhaps it's up to us to find a new route to take.
Yeah. All right. Well, last question. We have one from Hassan Tariq, who's at Hassan Tariq 10, and also Alan Gunn, who's at A_Gunsy, who you know quite well. Hassan asked a bunch of questions, but one of the things that they both asked is basically, given as long as the board waited to sack Mauricio Pellegrino, realistically, how long does Mark Hughes have to stay around? And I guess, is this the appropriate time, or is it still too early?
I think it is too early. I just think last season was an abomination from the start under Pellegrino. If our season takes that course this year, like last, I'd want and fully expect the board to act a lot sooner than they did with Hughes and they did Pellegrino. I think Hughes deserved to get the job after keeping us up. At the same time, the way our club is, I don't think there's any room for sentiment. If things are looking pretty bleak 15 games in rather than just 6, I think that's definitely time to act, and maybe even slightly before that. But I think it's important to remember that we are only just 6 games into the season. Yes, we've dropped points against teams we should have got results against, and we were in commanding positions to do that. But I'd still say we need to reserve judgment and, just be a bit realistic. We finished 17th last season. I don't think anyone really expected a whole lot out of this season, more to consolidate and maybe build from next year. I'm not 100% sure Hughes is the man to do that, but I think we still need to give him time and just see how things shake out.
Yeah. And
to be clear, Mark Hughes is of no relation to me, so I'm not biased in any way.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I didn't actually. I didn't assume. I'll say that. If there's ever somebody by the name of Mark Stone, they are definitely related. They
are. Okay, I'll remember that.
There was a spelling mistake coming over from Norway. They made a mistake in Ellis Island. Yeah. So there's only everybody my grandfather had relations with, as he's spread it around quite a bit, but we're all related. So thanks, Grandpa, I guess. But yeah, I don't know. It's tough to I almost don't want to go back into that mode of debating the manager and what right now. I think, one thing that I have to remind myself is that we've only been playing the back 4 now for 6 games. And granted, we've kept basically the same partnership. We want that partnership to be there. We went to a back 3 for a little bit yesterday. But remember, all summer long, we were with a back 3 or a back 5. Down the stretch last year we were back 5, and this year it's only been since kind of the beginning of the year that we've gone to this back 4 with Vestergaard and Houghton. They need time, and they definitely have faults in their game. I'm not sure their skill sets necessarily overlap enough to kind of cover those from time to time, but I think with time they should get better, and if they don't, then I think we take some action. But and whether that's at a personnel or a systematic or a a managerial situation, and I'm not sure yet.
Again, yeah, totally agree. That's a really good point you raised in terms of not only is it a new pairing of centre halves, but we have changed our formation from 5 to 4 at the back, and that's it's going to take some getting used to in multiple ways. And the signs don't look too promising at the minute, but who's to say? We can turn that around. I think negativity breeds negativity. I think if fans can stay off the team and the manager's back, give a few games grace at the very least, we might see an upturn in fortunes. Like, despite the situation we were in towards the end of the season, and despite some horrible games like against Chelsea and Everton where we squandered leads to either draw or lose, which looked really detrimental to our survival chances, the atmosphere in the stadiums were largely positive, and I think the fans were quite important in sort of getting the important win at Swansea. Mm-hmm. And I think a lot of fans wanted Hughes to succeed, whereas before everyone had grew so sick of seeing Pellegrino on the touchline. I think it sounds bad, but I definitely came away thinking. I remember when we drew against United, and I was a little bit frustrated because I knew that would buy Pellegrino more time as Southampton manager. Mm-hmm. And that's not a healthy mindset as a fan to have. You should be happy that you got a result. So I hope our fans can stick behind the team, and we'll see our fans rewarded for, driving the team forward rather than, getting on their backs and hounding them on social media.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. We've now been on the phone for over 2.5 hours. And I can say that I have enjoyed the first hour and a half a lot more than talking about some of the things we've had to talk about. And I enjoy talking about the team all the time, but sometimes it's you don't want to get to the point where we're suddenly talking about, how many times can we come up with we've blown a late lead, or where the quality isn't good enough. That's not, it is, unfortunately, is a function of what we have to do when we write or when we do this stuff. But, it'd be nice if there were a few kind of moments of brilliance in it that we could discuss as well. But I just want to thank you for giving me the time to do this. I've thoroughly enjoyed this, and you're always welcome back.
Yeah, thank you so much. It's been really good talking to you today. I loved being on the pod last time. Despite it feeling like Groundhog Day, talking about the same issues Southampton suffer, I have enjoyed talking about Southampton regardless of that. So, thank you for having me on.
Yeah, no problem. The dog is obviously starting to get irritated, but whatever. And we'll do this again later on in the season. We'll make sure we carve out some time to make sure we get you back. Yeah,
without a doubt. And I look forward to that time. Hopefully we're well clear of the relegation zone in terms of position and points. That would be nice. And who knows? We might even have a different manager by that time if our fans have anything to do with it.
It's true. So just one more reminder before we let you go. You're at JJ Hughes _ on Twitter.
Yes.
You have MMA writing and football writing, obviously. And then for all the football stuff, it's at St. Mary's Musings. And the links to all those are in the show notes. Check them out if you haven't. And we'll talk to you next time.
So next time. Thank you very much.
That does it for this episode of the Southampton Delivery Podcast. Thank you so much for joining us. I hope that you enjoyed it. Special thanks goes out to last week's guest, Richard Walters. Thank you so much for being willing to give away a copy of the book. To this week's guest, JJ Hughes, thank you for giving me so much of your time. The 2.5 hours that we talked were great. The hours that I spent editing that down, also great, but more fun talking to you than just about anything else. To everyone who helped spread the word about the new book and the episode last week, thank you. I'm sorry we can only give away one copy, but Richard Brereton, I hope that you enjoy it. And next time we have an author on, we'll try to do the same thing. If If you're interested in getting in touch with this show, you can do so on Twitter, Instagram, or Facebook. We're at SFCDELL_IVERY on Twitter and Instagram, and we're at facebook.com/SFCDelivery. There is no underscore in the Facebook address. If you're looking to subscribe to the show so you don't miss future episodes, that's a really good idea. Kind of like closing down a cross or attacking the ball in a corner. Things you should do. If you don't do them, will I be disappointed? Yes. Will I talk about it next week? Probably yes. Do I get tired of complaining about it? Yes. So fix it. You can do that on iTunes, Stitcher, Acast, Google Play, TuneIn Radio, or wherever you get your podcast. Simply search Delivery with 2 L's or type in Southampton, or go to the website, sfcdellivery.podbean.com, and click any of the links to the platform that you use. That works really well. If you like the show, please consider leaving a review on iTunes. It really does help other people kind of get exposed to it, and share it with a friend. That helps a lot as well. All music for the show comes courtesy of the Free Music Archive at freemusicarchive.org, our partners, the Southampton page, and the artwork that's done by Matt Beeling of the We Are Southampton page. You guys are fantastic. I could not do this without you. Thank you. All music comes courtesy of the Free Music Archive. The intro song is Epic Song by Boxcat Games. And the end of show credits that you're listening to now is Aim is True by Poddington Bear. That will do it for this episode. We will be back next week for episode 90. 90 straight weeks of podcasts. I apologize to everybody for that. But we'll be back next week. I'm looking forward to it. And until then, remember that together, we march on.